My name is Rosa, and I am 68 years old. 3 months ago, I lived through something that changed my life forever, and I need to share it with you because maybe, just maybe, my story can help someone who is going through something similar right now. You know, my dear friends, when we reach this age, we think we've seen everything life has to offer. We think we know people, that we can recognize a good heart from a bad one. But sometimes God allows us to discover truths that shake us to our very core, truths that we never wanted to know but needed to face. It was a Tuesday morning in March. I remember it perfectly because it was the feast day of San Jose, and I had prepared tamales de dulce the night before, just like my grandmother taught me back in Michoacan. These weren't just any tamales, they were made with pink masa, filled with raisins and pineapple, the way we used to make them for celebrations when I was a child. I wanted to take some to my daughter Isabella and her family. Isabella is my youngest, my baby, even though she's 34 years old now. She married Diego 7 years ago, and I truly believed he was a blessing from heaven. He seemed so attentive, so caring with her and the children. When they got married, I even helped them buy their little house in the neighborhood, using the money my late husband left me. I wanted to see my daughter happy, settled, secure. That Tuesday, I used my key to enter their house. Isabella had given it to me because I often helped with the grandchildren when she and Diego worked. I called out, "Hola familia," but no one answered. I thought maybe they had all left early, so I went to the kitchen to leave the tamales in the refrigerator. That's when I heard his voice. Diego was in the living room talking on the phone, but something in his tone made me stop. It wasn't his usual voice. It was softer, more intimate, the way a man speaks to a woman he loves. My heart started beating faster, and I felt something cold in my stomach. I hid behind the kitchen door and listened. What I heard destroyed my world in seconds. Mi amor, he was saying, I miss you so much. I can't wait to see you tonight. Yes, the same place as always. Isabella thinks I'm working late again. He laughed, a laugh I had never heard before, full of complicity and betrayal. My hands started trembling so violently that I almost dropped the container of tamales. 7 years. 7 years of seeing my daughter's face light up when Diego came home. 7 years of family dinners where I looked at him like a son. 7 years of watching Isabella sacrifice her dreams to be the perfect wife for this man. The baby is kicking more now, he continued, and I felt like the floor was disappearing beneath my feet. I can't wait to hold our child, Lucia. Soon we'll be together, I promise. Just a little more patience while I figure out how to handle the situation at home. I pressed my hand against my mouth to keep from screaming. Not only was he cheating on my Isabella, but this other woman was expecting his child. While my daughter was at home, taking care of his house, raising his children, believing in his love, he was building another life with someone else. I stayed there, frozen behind that door, listening to him make plans for his double life. When he finally hung up, I heard him leave the house, probably going to work as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just shattered the heart of a woman who loved him with all her soul. I sat there in their kitchen, surrounded by the smell of my tamales, and I cried. I cried for my daughter's innocence. I cried for the grandchildren who adored their father. I cried for myself because I had welcomed this wolf into our family with open arms. But then, as I sat there with tears streaming down my face, I felt something else growing inside me. It wasn't just pain. It was a mother's fury, the same fury that had protected my children when they were small, the same strength that had gotten me through my husband's death and raised 5 children on my own. I knew I couldn't tell Isabella immediately. I needed proof. I needed to be absolutely sure of what I had heard because I was about to destroy her world, and I had to be certain it was necessary. That day, I made a decision that would change everything. I was going to find out exactly who Diego really was, and I was going to protect my daughter, no matter what it cost me. That night, I couldn't close my eyes for even a minute. I kept hearing Diego's voice saying, "Mi amor," to another woman, and every time I tried to sleep, I saw Isabella's trusting face, the way she looked at him with such pure love. How many nights had she fallen asleep next to a man who was dreaming of someone else? I got up at 3 in the morning and made myself some manzanilla tea, just like my mother used to do when life became too heavy to bear. I sat at my kitchen table, holding that warm cup, and I prayed. Dios mío, I whispered, give me wisdom. Show me what I should do. Because carrying this secret felt like carrying a stone in my chest that was getting heavier by the hour. You have to understand, my dear friends, Isabella had given up everything for this marriage. When she was 22, she dreamed of becoming a teacher. She had such passion for children, such patience. But when she married Diego, he convinced her that a woman's place was in the home, taking care of the family. We don't need 2 salaries, he would say. I can provide for us. So my beautiful daughter, who once recited poetry and taught neighborhood children to read, became the perfect housewife. She learned to cook Diego's favorite meals. She kept their house spotless. She raised their 2 children with such love and dedication. And for what? So he could give his heart to another woman while she sacrificed her dreams? The next morning, I called Isabella to check how she was doing, trying to keep my voice normal. Hija, I said, how are things at home? Oh, Mama, she replied, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Diego has been working so hard lately. He comes home so tired, sometimes he even works late into the night. But I'm so proud of him, you know. He's such a good provider. My heart broke into 1,000 pieces. Late nights, of course. While Isabella was proud of his hard work, he was with Lucia, planning their future together, planning to abandon the woman who had given him her youth, her dreams, her unconditional love. That afternoon, I made a decision. I was going to follow Diego. I needed to see with my own eyes what I had heard with my ears. I put on my darkest clothes and waited outside his office building during his lunch break. I felt like a detective in one of those telenovelas my neighbor watches. But this wasn't entertainment. This was my daughter's life. I followed him to a small cafe in the center of town, the kind of place couples go when they want privacy. And there she was, Lucia, a young woman, maybe 25, with long black hair and a rounded belly that made her pregnancy obvious. She was beautiful, I have to admit, but that beauty felt like a knife in my heart because I knew it was destroying my family. I watched them from across the street, hidden behind a newspaper stand, the way Diego looked at her, the way he touched her face, the way he placed his hand on her belly with such tenderness. It was everything Isabella deserved but wasn't receiving. I saw him give her an envelope, probably money for the baby, for their secret life together. They talked for over an hour, and I could see them making plans, pointing at papers they had spread on the table. When they said goodbye, he kissed her forehead and whispered something that made her smile. Then he returned to work as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just been planning a future that didn't include his wife. That evening I went to Isabella's house for dinner, as I did every Wednesday. Diego was there, playing with the children, helping with homework, being the perfect father and husband. But now I could see through his mask. Every smile felt false. Every mi amor, he said to Isabella, felt like mockery. Diego looks tired, I said to Isabella while we were washing dishes. Yes, he's been working on a big project, she replied, drying a plate with such care. He's been staying late at the office almost every night this week. I told him he should rest more, but he says he's doing it for us, for the children's future. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab my daughter and shake her and tell her that her husband was a liar, that he was building a future. Yes, but not with her. Instead, I hugged her tightly and said, Misha, you deserve all the happiness in the world. As I walked home that night, I knew I had to do more than just watch. I had to gather evidence, real proof that Isabella couldn't deny. Because when I finally told her the truth, I wanted to be absolutely certain that she would believe me and have the strength to leave this man who was destroying her life so slowly, so cruelly. But I also knew that once I opened this door, there would be no going back. Once Isabella knew the truth, our family would never be the same again. 3 days passed, and the weight of this secret was killing me. Every morning I woke up thinking about Isabella making breakfast for a man who was betraying her. Every evening I imagined her waiting for him while he was with another woman. I couldn't eat. I couldn't concentrate on my novenas. I couldn't even enjoy my grandchildren's laughter because all I could think about was the lie they were living. On Friday afternoon, I made a decision that I now know changed everything. I was going to talk to Diego first. I was going to give him the chance to confess, to end this madness before it destroyed my family even more. Maybe, I thought, if I confronted him, he would realize how much damage he was causing and choose to do the right thing. I waited until Isabella went to the market with the children. I knew Diego would be home alone, probably planning his weekend lies. When I knocked on their door, he opened it with that fake smile he always gave me. "Rosa, what a surprise! Isabella just left for the market." "I know," I said, looking directly into his eyes. "I came to talk to you, Diego. Just you and me." Something in my voice, something in the way I was looking at him made his smile disappear. He stepped aside to let me in, but I could see the nervousness in his movements. We went to the living room and I sat on the edge of the sofa, where I had spent so many Sunday afternoons watching my grandchildren play. "Diego," I began, my voice steadier than I expected. "I know about Lucia." The color drained from his face. For a moment he tried to pretend he didn't understand, but then his shoulders sagged, and I saw the mask beginning to slip. "I don't know what you're talking about, Rosa. I heard you on the phone," I continued. "I heard you tell her you missed her, that you couldn't wait to see her. I know about the baby she's carrying. I know about your double life." Diego stood up abruptly, running his hands through his hair. The charming man my daughter had married was disappearing before my eyes, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. "You don't understand the situation," he said, his voice getting harder. "My relationship with Isabella, it's complicated." Complicated? I stood up too, feeling anger rise in my chest. "There's nothing complicated about this, Diego. You're a married man with 2 children and you're having an affair with a pregnant woman. You're destroying my daughter while she trusts you completely." "Your daughter?" he started, then stopped, shaking his head. "Isabella doesn't understand me. She doesn't see what I need. Lucia gives me something that—" "Stop!" I interrupted him. "Don't you dare blame Isabella for your betrayal. That girl has given you everything. Her youth, her dreams, her love. She left her career to be the wife you wanted, and this is how you repay her." Diego's expression changed completely. The nervousness disappeared, replaced by something cold and dangerous that I had never seen before. "Listen to me very carefully, Rosa," he said, taking a step toward me. "This is none of your business. You have no right to interfere in my marriage." "I have every right," I replied, my voice rising. "Isabella is my daughter, and I won't let you destroy her life with your lies." "If you say anything to her," Diego said, and now his voice was pure threat, "I swear you'll regret it for the rest of your life. I'll make sure you never see your grandchildren again. I'll tell Isabella you're losing your mind, that you're making up stories because you're jealous of our happiness." I felt real fear then, but also something else, a fury I hadn't felt since I was a young mother protecting my children from danger. "Isabella deserves to know the truth," I said firmly. "She deserves better than this." That's when it happened. Diego's face contorted with rage, and he took another step toward me. I was standing near the top of the stairs, and I saw something in his eyes that terrified me. "You meddling old woman," he hissed. "You think you can ruin my life? You think you can destroy everything I've built?" I tried to step back, but there was nowhere to go. The stairs were right behind me. "Diego, calm down." But he wasn't listening anymore. In a moment of pure fury, he pushed me, hard, with both hands against my shoulders. I felt my body losing balance, the world spinning around me as I fell backward down those wooden stairs. The pain was immediate and intense, but what hurt most wasn't my body hitting each step. It was the realization that this man, whom I had considered like a son, was capable of hurting me to protect his lies. As I lay at the bottom of the stairs, every part of my body aching, I heard Diego running down after me, but he wasn't coming to help. He was coming to see how badly he had hurt me, to calculate how much damage he had caused. And that's when something extraordinary happened in my mind, something I now know was divine inspiration. As I lay there at the bottom of those stairs, feeling pain shoot through my entire body, something incredible happened. Despite the physical agony, My mind became crystal clear, clearer than it had been in years. It was as if God himself was whispering in my ear, telling me exactly what I needed to do. Diego came rushing down the stairs, but I could see it in his face. He wasn't concerned about my well-being. He was worried about himself, about what would happen if Isabella found out what he had done. His first words confirmed everything I suspected about his character. "Rosa, are you okay?" he asked, but his voice was shaking with fear, not compassion. "What happened? Did you slip?" Right then, lying on that cold floor with my body screaming in pain, inspiration struck me like lightning. My left leg was throbbing, probably bruised badly, but it wasn't broken. However, something inside me, call it maternal instinct, call it divine guidance, told me this was my opportunity to discover who Diego really was beneath his mask. "My leg," I moaned, making my voice weaker than it actually was. "Diego, I think it's broken. I can't move it." I let out a cry of pain that was only half pretend, because the fall had indeed hurt me terribly. I watched his face carefully as I said this, and what I saw chilled me to the bone. Instead of immediate concern, instead of rushing to call for help, I saw calculation. I saw him thinking, planning, trying to figure out how to handle this situation to his advantage. "Oh no, Rosa, this is terrible," he said, but his words felt rehearsed, fake. "We need to get you to a doctor right away." "Yes," I whispered. "Call an ambulance, please, and call Isabella. I need my daughter." But Diego shook his head quickly. No, Rosa. We can't call an ambulance. Think about it. Isabella will ask too many questions. She'll want to know exactly how this happened, and she's already so stressed with work and the children. Let me help you to the sofa, and we'll say you had a little accident that you slipped. Nothing more." My dear friends, in that moment I realized I was looking at a true monster. Here I was, possibly seriously injured because of his violence, and his only concern was protecting his secret. But God had given me wisdom, and I knew exactly what to do. "You're right," I said weakly, letting him help me to the sofa. "I don't want to worry Isabella. It was just an accident." As Diego helped me settle on the couch, I reached carefully into my pocket and turned on my phone's recording function. From that moment on, every word, every threat, every revelation of his true character would be captured. "Listen carefully, Rosa," Diego said once I was on the sofa, and now his mask was completely off. His voice was cold, calculating. "You're going to tell Isabella that you fell down the stairs by accident. You slipped on something, lost your balance, that's all. Nothing about our conversation upstairs. Nothing about what you think you know about my private life." I nodded weakly, playing my part perfectly. "Yes, Diego, I understand." "Good," he continued, pacing in front of me like a predator. "Because if you say anything at all, about Lucia, or about what happened between us, I will make your life hell. I'll convince Isabella that you're becoming senile, that you're making up stories. I'll make sure you never see your grandchildren again." Every word was being recorded. Every threat, every cruel revelation of his character was being captured on my phone. But he wasn't finished. "You think you're so smart, Rosa, but you don't understand what you're dealing with. I've worked too hard to build this life to let some meddling old woman destroy it. Isabella belongs to me. This house belongs to me. Those children belong to me. And if you interfere, I'll take it all away from you." I made myself cry then, not difficult given the pain I was feeling. And I said in the most broken voice I could manage, "I'm sorry, Diego. I won't say anything. I just want to rest." "That's better," he said, and I could hear the satisfaction in his voice. "Isabella will be home soon. Remember, you slipped and fell. Nothing more." When Isabella arrived with the children 20 minutes later, Diego immediately transformed back into the caring son-in-law. "Isabella, your mother had an accident," he said with perfect concern in his voice. "She slipped on the stairs and hurt her leg." "Ay, Dios mío, Mama, are you all right?" Isabella rushed to my side, her face full of genuine worry and love. "I'm fine, mija," I said, squeezing her hand. "Just clumsy old me. Diego has been taking such good care of me. We should take her to the hospital," Isabella said, but Diego was quick to respond. I already suggested that, but your mother insisted she just wanted to rest. You know how stubborn she can be. As Isabella fussed over me, bringing me water and pillows, I caught Diego watching me over her shoulder. His eyes held a clear message: remember our agreement. But what Diego didn't know was that I had just begun the most important performance of my life. The next 3 days were the longest of my life. Isabella insisted I stay at their house so she could take care of me, and I agreed because it gave me the perfect opportunity to observe Diego when he thought I was helpless and defeated. My dear friends, what I discovered during those days showed me a level of cruelty I never imagined possible. During the day, when Isabella was home, Diego played the role of the concerned son-in-law perfectly. He would ask how I was feeling, bring me tea, even help me to the bathroom, all while maintaining that caring expression. But the moment Isabella left for work or went to the store, his mask would disappear completely. "How are you feeling today, Rosa?" he would ask sweetly when Isabella was in the room. But as soon as my daughter was out of sight, he would lean close to me and whisper, "Remember what we discussed. One word about what you think you know, and you'll regret it." On the second day, while Isabella was at the pharmacy buying me pain medication, Diego sat beside me on the sofa and spoke with a coldness that made my blood freeze. "I hope you understand now what happens when you try to interfere in my business," he said quietly. "That fall down the stairs was just a taste of what I'm capable of. If you ever threaten my family again, the next accident might be much worse." But the worst moment came on the third day. Isabella had gone to pick up the children from school, and Diego thought I was sleeping on the sofa. That's when he made a phone call that revealed the true depth of his evil. "Lucia, mi amor," I heard him say, and I carefully opened my eyes just enough to see him with his back to me. "No, don't worry about the old woman. She had a little accident and learned her lesson. She won't be a problem for us anymore." He laughed then, a sound that made my skin crawl. "She fell down the stairs after sticking her nose where it didn't belong. Now she knows better than to interfere in our lives. Yes, she's staying here for a few days, but she's completely subdued. Isabella is taking care of her like a sick puppy." My heart filled with rage as I listened to him mock my pain, mock the situation he had created with his violence. But I forced myself to stay still, to keep recording, because I knew every word was evidence of his true character. "The plan is still the same, mi amor," he continued. "I'll ask for the divorce next month. I'll tell Isabella that I'm no longer happy, that we've grown apart, that I need space to find myself. I won't mention you until after everything is finalized. That way, she can't claim adultery, and I'll get half of everything, including this house that her stupid mother helped us buy." I had to press my hand against my mouth to keep from gasping. This monster wasn't just planning to leave Isabella. He was planning to steal everything from her, including the house I had helped them purchase with my late husband's life insurance money. "Once the divorce is final and I have my share of the assets," Diego went on, "I'll move in with you and we can start our real life together. Isabella will be left with nothing but the children, and she'll have to go crawling back to work to support them. It's perfect." He paused, listening to Lucia on the other end, then laughed again. "The baby will be born right around the time the divorce is finalized. We couldn't have planned it better if we tried. By Christmas, we'll be a family, and Isabella will just be a bad memory." When Isabella returned with the children, Diego immediately transformed back into the loving husband and father. He helped the kids with their homework, kissed Isabella on the cheek, and even offered to cook dinner. Watching him switch between these two personalities was like watching the devil himself at work. That evening, as Isabella was tucking me in for the night, she said something that broke my heart into even smaller pieces. "Mama, I'm so glad you're okay. When Diego told me you fell, I was so scared. I don't know what I would do without you. And I'm so grateful to have a husband who cares for my family the way Diego does. He's been so attentive to you, so worried about your recovery. He's very attentive," I managed to say, my voice catching slightly. "I'm so blessed," Isabella continued, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Diego works so hard for us. He's such a good father. And now seeing how he takes care of you, I couldn't ask for a better husband." As I lay there that night, listening to Isabella and Diego talking quietly in their bedroom, I realized that this man wasn't just destroying my daughter's present. He was planning to destroy her entire future. He was going to take her home, her security, her faith in love itself, and leave her with nothing but broken dreams and the responsibility of raising 2 children alone. That's when I made a decision that changed everything. I was tired of being a victim. I was tired of pretending to be helpless while this predator planned to destroy my family. The next morning, I was going to show Diego that he had gravely underestimated this old woman. Because if there's one thing I learned in my 68 years of life, it's that a mother's love knows no limits when it comes to protecting her children. And I was far from defeated. On the 4th morning, I woke up with a clarity and determination I hadn't felt in years. As I lay there listening to Isabella making breakfast and getting the children ready for school, I felt something powerful stirring inside me. The same fierce strength that had gotten me through raising 5 children as a widow. The same courage that had helped me survive when my husband died and left me with nothing but faith and determination. I had been pretending to be weak for 3 days, and in that time, I had gathered enough evidence to destroy Diego completely. Hours of recordings where he threatened me, mocked my pain, and revealed his cruel plans to steal everything from Isabella. But more importantly, I had seen his true face, and I was no longer afraid of him. When Isabella left for work and the children went to school, Diego came to check on me with his usual fake concern. "How are you feeling today, Rosa?" he asked. But there was something different in his voice. He was getting comfortable, confident that he had broken me completely. "Much better," I said, and something in my tone made him look at me more carefully. "Good," he said slowly. "I hope you've had time to think about our conversation. I hope you understand that what's best for everyone is to keep quiet about things that don't concern you." I looked at him for a long moment. This man who had pushed me down the stairs, who had threatened me, who was planning to destroy my daughter's life. Then I smiled. "Diego," I said, sitting up straighter than I had in days, "I think it's time we had another conversation." The change in his expression was immediate. Confusion, then suspicion, then the beginning of fear as he realized something was different about me. "What do you mean?" he asked, taking a step back. I stood up from the sofa slowly, deliberately, without any of the pain and difficulty I had been showing for the past 3 days. The look on his face when he realized I could move perfectly well was something I will treasure forever. "Surprised, Diego?" I asked, walking toward him with steady steps. "Did you really think a little fall down the stairs would break me? Did you think you could intimidate me into silence with your threats? Rosa, what are you doing? You said your leg was broken," he stammered, backing away from me. "My leg is fine, Diego. Bruised, yes, but perfectly functional. What's broken is this family thanks to your lies and betrayals. What's broken is my daughter's heart, though she doesn't know it yet. What's broken is the trust I once had in you." I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone, holding it up so he could see it clearly. "But you know what's not broken, Diego? My memory, my ability to record every cruel word, every threat, every confession you've made over these past 3 days." The color drained from his face as he stared at the phone. "You've been recording me. Every single conversation," I said calmly. "Every threat you made against me. Every time you mocked my pain. Every detail of your plan to steal Isabella's house and leave her with nothing. Every word you said to your pregnant mistress about how you're going to destroy my daughter's life." Diego's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. For the first time since I had known him, he was completely speechless. "You see, mijo," I continued, using the affectionate term with deliberate irony, "you made a terrible mistake. You assumed that because I'm an old woman, I'm helpless. You assumed that because I fell down your stairs, I was defeated. But what you didn't realize is that I've survived much worse than you." I walked closer to him, and now he was the one who looked afraid. "I buried a husband I loved with all my heart and raised 5 children on my own. I worked 3 jobs to put food on the table and send my children to school. I faced poverty, discrimination, and heartbreak that would destroy a weak person. Did you really think that a spoiled little boy like you could break me?" "Rosa, listen," he started. but I held up my hand to stop him. No, Diego, you listen. For 3 days, I've been listening to you. I've been gathering evidence of exactly who you are. And now you're going to listen to me. I pressed play on one of the recordings, and his own voice filled the room. The old woman had a little accident and learned her lesson. She won't be a problem for us anymore. His face went white as he heard his own words, his own laughter, his own cruel plans played back to him. I have hours of this, Diego. Hours of you threatening me, planning to steal from Isabella, mocking the pain you caused me. Hours of you talking to your mistress about how you're going to destroy my daughter's life and take everything she has. You can't use those recordings, he said desperately. It's illegal to record someone without their permission. I smiled at him then, the smile of a woman who had just realized she held all the power. Maybe, I said calmly. But they're not illegal when they're used to protect a victim of domestic violence. Because that's what you are, Diego. An abuser. You pushed an elderly woman down the stairs and then used her pain to try to silence her. The expression on Diego's face when he realized how completely he had been outmaneuvered was something I'll remember for the rest of my life. Terror, disbelief, and desperate calculation all mixed together as he understood that the helpless old woman he thought he had defeated had actually been 3 steps ahead of him the entire time. Rosa, please, he started, his voice now shaking. You don't understand. This is all a misunderstanding. I never meant to hurt you. When I pushed you, I was upset. I wasn't thinking clearly. Oh, you were thinking very clearly, I replied, holding my phone steady. Clear enough to threaten me. Clear enough to mock my pain to your mistress. Clear enough to plan how you were going to steal my daughter's house and leave her with nothing. I played another recording, this one of him talking to Lucia. I'll get half of everything, including this house that her stupid mother helped us buy. Diego flinched as if I had slapped him. Rosa, listen to me. We can work this out. Whatever you want, I can... What I want, I interrupted him, feeling the full power of righteous anger flowing through me. What I want is for you to understand that you picked the wrong family to destroy. What I want is for you to realize that you're not dealing with some weak old woman you can intimidate. I walked over to the family photographs on the wall. Pictures of Isabella's wedding day, pictures of the grandchildren, pictures of family gatherings where Diego always appeared to be the perfect husband and father. Look at these photos, Diego. Look at my daughter's face in her wedding pictures. Look how happy she was, how much she trusted you. And now look at me and tell me, did you ever love her? Even for one day. He couldn't meet my eyes. It's complicated, Rosa. Marriage is a commitment, I said, my voice rising. Marriage is a promise you made before God and family to love and honor my daughter. Instead, you've been planning to betray her in the cruelest way possible. I played another recording, this one where he laughed about Isabella taking care of me like a sick puppy after he had pushed me down the stairs. Diego actually winced at the sound of his own cruelty. Stop, please, he said, running his hands through his hair. What do you want from me? Money? I can give you money to keep quiet about this. Money? I laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You think this is about money? Diego, you just offered to bribe the woman whose daughter you're betraying. Do you hear yourself? Then what? What do you want? I sat down in Isabella's favorite chair, the one where she used to read bedtime stories to the children, and I looked at this man who had been destroying my family from the inside. I want you to understand something very clearly, I said, my voice calm but filled with steel. You have exactly 24 hours to decide how this ends. You can confess everything to Isabella yourself, the affair, the baby, your plans to steal her house, and maybe she'll have some mercy when the lawyers get involved. Or, he asked, though I could see he already knew the answer, or I will tell her everything myself, and I will play these recordings for her, for a lawyer, and for anyone else who needs to hear them. And when I do, you won't just lose your marriage, you'll lose everything. Diego's legs seemed to give out, and he sat down heavily on the sofa where I'd been pretending to recover. Rosa, please, think about the children. Think about Isabella. A divorce will destroy them. The children? I stood up, and my voice became dangerous. Now you're concerned about the children. Where was that concern when you were planning to abandon them for your pregnant mistress? Where was that concern when you pushed their grandmother down the stairs? I leaned forward, looking directly into his eyes. Let me tell you something about those children, Diego. They're strong, just like their mother, just like their grandmother. They'll survive this because they come from strong women who know how to rebuild their lives. But you're going to learn what it means to face the consequences of your choices. Isabella will never believe you, he said desperately. She loves me. She trusts me completely. Yes, she does, I agreed sadly. And that's exactly why breaking her heart will be so painful. But Isabella is my daughter, and she deserves to know the truth. She deserves the chance to build a real life with someone who actually loves her, not someone who sees her as an obstacle to overcome. I picked up my purse and walked toward the door. I'm going home now, Diego. And tonight, I'm going to pray for wisdom about how to tell my daughter that the man she's loved for 7 years has been planning to destroy her life. I suggest you spend that time deciding whether you want to tell her yourself or whether you want me to do it. Rosa, wait, he called out, desperation clear in his voice. I turned back to look at him one more time. You know what the saddest part is, Diego? Isabella would have forgiven almost anything if you had just been honest with her. If you had told her you weren't happy, if you had asked for help, if you had treated her with even basic respect. But instead, you chose cruelty. You chose to plan her destruction while she cooked your meals and raised your children. 24 hours, I repeated. After that, this stops being your choice and becomes mine. 24 hours passed and Diego said nothing to Isabella. I knew he wouldn't. Cowards like him always hope the problem will disappear if they ignore it long enough. So that evening I called my daughter and asked her to come to my house alone after the children were asleep. Is everything all right, Mama? She asked when she arrived, concern in her voice. You sounded so serious on the phone. Sit down, mija, I said, patting the sofa beside me. There's something I need to tell you, something that's going to hurt your heart, but that you need to know. I had spent the entire day praying for the right words, asking God to give me strength and wisdom to break my daughter's world in the most gentle way possible. But there's no gentle way to tell a woman that the man she loves has been betraying her for years. Isabella, I began, taking her hands in mine, what I'm about to tell you is going to be very difficult to hear. I need you to know that I love you more than life itself, and everything I'm doing is to protect you. She looked at me with those trusting eyes, the same eyes that had looked at Diego with such complete faith, and my heart broke before I even began. Diego is having an affair, I said simply. He has been for over 2 years. The woman's name is Lucia, and she's pregnant with his child. The color drained from Isabella's face, but she didn't say anything. She just stared at me as if I had spoken in a foreign language. I discovered it by accident, I continued. I heard him talking to her on the phone when I came to bring tamales last week. I followed him. I saw them together. And then things got complicated. I told her everything. About confronting Diego, about him pushing me down the stairs, about the 3 days I spent recording his threats and confessions. With each revelation, I watched my daughter's face change, watched her innocence die a little more. No, she whispered finally. No, Mama, that's not possible. Diego loves me. He would never. We're happy. We have a good marriage. I pulled out my phone and played one of the recordings, the one where Diego told Lucia he was planning to divorce Isabella and take half of everything, including the house. Isabella listened in complete silence, her face growing paler with each word. When Diego's laughter came through the speaker, the laughter where he mocked how Isabella was taking care of me like a sick puppy, my daughter's face crumpled completely. That's his voice, she whispered. That's really his voice. Yes, mija. I'm so sorry. The scream that came out of Isabella then was like nothing I had ever heard. It was the sound of a heart breaking, of a world collapsing, of 7 years of love and trust being shattered in an instant. She doubled over on my sofa and cried like I had never seen anyone cry before. I held her while she sobbed, feeling my own heart break with hers. This was my baby, my youngest daughter, and I was watching her world end. But I also knew that sometimes we have to break completely before we can heal properly. How long have you known? she asked when she could finally speak. 1 week, I said, and every day of that week has been torture, knowing what this would do to you. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I needed to be sure, because I needed evidence, and because I paused, choosing my words carefully, because I needed to understand exactly who Diego really is, so I could protect you from what he was planning to do. I showed her more recordings. Diego planning to claim she was mentally unstable if she fought the divorce. Diego calculating how to steal the house that we had helped them buy. Diego telling Lucia how Isabella would be left with nothing but the children and would have to go crawling back to work. With each recording, Isabella's tears turned to something else. I could see anger beginning to mix with her pain, and I was glad. Anger would help her survive this. Anger would give her strength. He pushed you down the stairs, she said, her voice getting stronger. He hurt my mother to protect his affair. Yes, mija. And then he threatened me to keep me quiet. And I was taking care of you, thinking you had just fallen while he was... She couldn't finish the sentence. While he was mocking both of us to his mistress, I completed gently. Isabella stood up suddenly, wiping her eyes with a determination I recognized from my own reflection. Where are the children? I asked. At Maria's house for the night. They're having a sleepover with their cousins. She looked at me with eyes that were no longer innocent but were filled with strength. I'm going home, Mama. I'm going to confront him tonight. Do you want me to come with you? No, she said firmly. This is something I need to do myself. But Mama, thank you. Thank you for protecting me, even when it meant getting hurt yourself. Thank you for being strong enough to find the truth. As I watched my daughter walk out of my house that night, her shoulders straight and her step determined, I felt something I hadn't expected to feel. Pride. Yes, her heart was broken. Yes, her life was about to change completely. But Isabella was showing the same strength that had carried our family through every hardship, the same courage that had helped me survive as a widow with 5 children. She was going to be all right. It would take time, it would be painful, but she was going to be all right. Isabella called me at 2 in the morning, her voice steady but exhausted. It's done, Mama. I confronted him with everything. I played the recordings. How did he react? I asked, though I could already imagine. First he tried to deny it, then he tried to blame me, saying I wasn't giving him what he needed. When I played the recording of him planning to steal the house, he got angry and said you had manipulated me against him. Her voice got stronger. That's when I told him to pack his bags and get out. And did he leave? Yes. He's staying at a hotel tonight. Tomorrow I'm calling a lawyer. The next few weeks were like watching God's justice unfold before my eyes. Isabella hired the best divorce attorney in town, a woman who specialized in cases involving unfaithful husbands and hidden assets. When the lawyer heard the recordings I had made, she smiled with the satisfaction of someone who knew she had an unwinnable case. These recordings are absolutely admissible, she told us, especially considering that he physically assaulted you and then threatened you to keep quiet. This isn't just adultery. This is domestic violence and financial fraud. Diego tried everything. He hired his own lawyer and claimed the recordings were illegal. He said I had manipulated Isabella against him. He even tried to argue that he deserved half the house because he had contributed to the household for 7 years. But the evidence was overwhelming. Not only did we have hours of recordings proving his adultery and his plans to defraud Isabella, but we also had phone records showing hundreds of calls to Lucia, restaurant receipts from their secret meetings, and even hotel records from their romantic getaways. The most satisfying moment came when Diego's lawyer heard the recording where Diego mocked me after pushing me down the stairs. The lawyer's face went white, and he immediately advised Diego to accept whatever settlement Isabella offered. Your client is looking at potential criminal charges for assault on an elderly person, Isabella's lawyer told him. I suggest he be very cooperative in these proceedings. But the consequences went beyond just the divorce. When Diego's employer, a prestigious accounting firm, learned about his character through the legal proceedings, they conducted their own investigation. It turned out Diego had been using company time and resources for his affair, even taking Lucia on business trips that the company was paying for. He lost his job 3 weeks into the divorce proceedings. Then came the final blow. Lucia, the woman he had promised to build a new life with, heard the recordings where Diego called Isabella's house stupid and mocked me as a meddling old woman. She realized that if he could speak so cruelly about a family that had welcomed him with love, how long would it be before he spoke about her the same way? She left him when she was 6 months pregnant. The divorce was finalized in record time. Isabella kept the house, all of it, since my money had helped purchase it, and Diego had planned to steal it through fraud. She also received full custody of the children and substantial alimony payments. Diego was left with his personal belongings and a court order requiring him to pay child support for not just Isabella's children, but also for the baby he had abandoned with Lucia. 6 months after that terrible day when I discovered his betrayal, I sat in Isabella's kitchen, her kitchen now completely hers, watching her make breakfast for the children before school. She was humming softly, something she hadn't done during the last years of her marriage, though I hadn't realized it at the time. "How are you feeling, Mija?" I asked her. "Free," she said simply. "For the first time in years, I feel free. I didn't even realize how much I was walking on eggshells, trying to be the perfect wife for someone who was planning to destroy me. And the children? They're adjusting. It was hard at first, but children are more resilient than we think. And honestly, Mama, they're happier now. There's no more tension in the house, no more of Diego's mood swings when things didn't go his way." Isabella poured herself a cup of coffee and sat beside me. "You know what the strangest part is? I'm not even angry anymore. I feel sorry for him." "Sorry for him?" "Yes, think about it. He had a woman who loved him completely, 2 beautiful children, a comfortable home, a family that welcomed him. He had everything, and he threw it all away for what? For someone who left him the moment she saw who he really was." I reached over and squeezed her hand. "You're stronger than I ever imagined, Isabella. I learned from the best," she said, squeezing back. "A woman who survived being pushed down the stairs and turned it into the weapon that saved her daughter's life." That afternoon, Isabella went back to work for the first time in 7 years. She had gotten a job at the local elementary school, not as a teacher yet, but as an aide while she worked on getting her certification updated. It was a start, a return to the dreams she had put aside for a man who never deserved her sacrifice. As for Diego, the last I heard, he was working at a small accounting office in another town, living in a tiny apartment, and still paying child support for 2 children, one he abandoned and one he lost through his own cruelty. But more than the legal victory, more than the financial justice, what mattered most was seeing my daughter smile again. Really smile. Not the careful, walking on eggshell smiles she had worn during those last years with Diego. Today, as I sit here in my living room telling you this story, it's been 8 months since that terrible day when Diego pushed me down those stairs. 8 months since I discovered that the man I had trusted with my daughter's happiness was planning to destroy her life. And my dear friends, I want to share with you the most important lessons I learned from this experience. The first lesson is that age doesn't make us weak, it makes us wise. When Diego saw a 68-year-old woman, he saw someone he could intimidate and silence. What he didn't see was a woman who had survived poverty, discrimination, widowhood, and the challenge of raising 5 children alone. He didn't see decades of experience that had taught me how to recognize strength and how to use it. Too often, we older women are made to feel invisible, irrelevant, like our voices don't matter anymore. But I'm here to tell you that we are the guardians of our families. We are the ones with the wisdom to see through lies, the courage to fight for truth, and the strength to protect those we love, no matter what it costs us. The second lesson is that sometimes God allows us to go through pain so we can protect others. When I was lying at the bottom of those stairs, feeling physical pain shoot through my body, I could have just accepted defeat. I could have let Diego silence me with his threats. But instead, God gave me the wisdom to turn my pain into power, to use my suffering as a tool to expose the truth. If I hadn't been injured, if I hadn't stayed in that house for 3 days, I never would have gathered the evidence that saved Isabella's future. Sometimes what feels like our greatest defeat is actually God preparing us for our greatest victory. Isabella is thriving now in ways I never expected. She passed her teaching certification exam last month and will start as a full-time teacher in the fall. The children are doing wonderfully. They're more relaxed, more joyful, and they've stopped asking when Papa is coming home. Children sense authenticity, and they can feel that their home is now filled with genuine peace instead of hidden tension. Last week, Isabella started dating someone new, a widowed teacher from her school who lost his wife to cancer 2 years ago. He's kind, gentle, and most importantly, he sees my daughter for the treasure she truly is. When I watch them together, I see something I never saw with Diego: equality, respect, genuine affection that doesn't have to be performed. Mama, Isabella told me recently, I realize now that I was never truly happy with Diego. I was just comfortable with being unhappy. I had forgotten what it felt like to be with someone who actually enjoys my company. As for Diego, he serves as a reminder that consequences always catch up with cruel people. He lost his career, his family, his reputation, and even the woman he betrayed his wife for. The last I heard, he was working nights at a call center and living in a studio apartment, paying child support for children he barely sees. But you know what? I don't wish him ill. I pray for him sometimes, that he might find genuine repentance and learn to treat people with the respect they deserve. Because holding on to anger only poisons our own hearts, and I refuse to let his actions continue to hurt my family. My dear friends, if you're listening to this story and you recognize something in your own life, if you're living with someone who makes you feel small, if you're being threatened into silence about something you know is wrong, if you're being told that your age makes your voice irrelevant, I want you to remember something very important. You are stronger than you know. You have survived everything life has thrown at you so far, and that survival has made you wise, not weak. Your voice matters. Your protection of your family matters. Your refusal to accept lies and cruelty matters. Sometimes we have to be willing to break before we can heal. Sometimes we have to be willing to face painful truths before we can build authentic happiness. And sometimes we have to be willing to fight for justice, even when the fight is difficult and scary. I learned that a mother's love truly knows no limits. Even at 68 years old, even after being physically attacked, even when facing threats and intimidation, a mother will find a way to protect her children. That strength doesn't diminish with age. It grows deeper, wiser, more strategic. To the women listening who have adult children, never underestimate your continued importance in their lives. Your wisdom, your protection, your willingness to fight for truth, these things can save your family in ways you never imagined. And to anyone who is going through betrayal, who is discovering that someone they trusted has been deceiving them, the pain you feel right now is real and it's valid, but it's not permanent. On the other side of this pain is a life of authenticity, peace, and genuine love that you may not have even realized you were missing. God has a plan. Even in our darkest moments, what the enemy means for evil, God can turn for good. My fall down those stairs was meant to silence me, but instead it gave me the weapon I needed to save my daughter's future. Thank you for listening to my story, my dear friends. Remember to like this video if it touched your heart. Subscribe to this channel where we share our experiences and support each other with love and faith. And please, tell me in the comments about a time when you found strength you didn't know you had. Until next time, remember, you are never too old to be a warrior for your family, and you are never too small to make a difference in someone's life. Que Dios los bendiga.